This is the broadcast of World News on Super Media Television. World News comes up every Monday to Friday at 3 p.m. You can also follow us on Facebook at SUMTV and on YouTube at Super Media TV. Now, the major headlines. Protests erupt in Israel after Netanyahu fires defense minister. Trump claims victory in the presidential elections. My name is Abraham Minor Judah. Now, the news in full. Protests erupt in Israel after Netanyahu fires defense minister. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has fired Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, citing a crisis of trust between them. This move has sparked widespread protests across Israel, with demonstrators calling for Netanyahu's resignation and demanding that the new defense minister prioritize a hostage deal. Now, reasons behind Gallant's removal. Gallant's removal was reportedly due to disagreement on three key issues. Military service exemptions. Gallant opposed exemptions for for Israel's ultra-Orthodox citizens. National inquiry. Gallant advocated for a national inquiry to learn lessons from the war. Hostage release. Gallant believed Israel should make painful concessions to secure the release of hostages held by Hamas. Now let's look at the protests and reactions. Protesters lit fires and blocked traffic on the Ayalon highway, while others demanded Netanyahu's resignation. The Hostages and Missing Family Forum condemned Gallant's dismissal, calling it an attempt to torpedo hostage release talks. Now, replacement and implications. Foreign Minister Israel Katz will replace Gallant, while Gideon Saar will become the new foreign minister. Katz is said as more hawkish on military strategy, which may escalate tensions. International context. Gallant's removal coincides with the U.S. presidential election, notable given Israel's reliance on U.S. support in the Gaza conflict. The White House has expressed appreciation for Gallant's cooperation on defense matters. Timeline. Government and Kessler approval required for new ministers. Thank you. And we can see in people holding Israel flag as demonstrators demonstrate against Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay. The former defense minister also been unhappy at plans to continue to allow Israel ultra-Orthodox citizens to be exempt from serving in the military. Months before the start of the war in Gaza in October 2023, Netanyahu had fired Gallant over political differences before reinstating him following major public outcry. But on Tuesday, Netanyahu said, in the midst of a war, more than ever, full trust is required between the Prime Minister and the Minister of Defense. He said, although there have been trust and fruitful work in the first month of the war, during the last month, this trust cracked. Netanyahu added that significant gaps were discovered between me and Gallant in the management of the campaign. These were accompanied by statements and actions that contradict the decisions of the government, he added. Following the news, Gallant posted on social media that the security of the state of Israel was and will always remain the mission of my life. He later released the full statement on Tuesday night, saying his removal from office had been the result of disagreement on three issues. He believed there should be no exemptions for military service, that a national inquiry was needed to learn lessons, and the hostage should be brought back as soon as possible. In reference to the hostages, he said, I determined that it is possible to achieve this goal. It requires painful concession which the state of Israel can carry and the IDF can bear. One of the protesters following the announcement, Yair said Netanyahu is endangering the whole country and called on the Prime Minister to step down from his office and to let serious people lead Israel. Israelis demonstrate after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sacked his defense minister Yoav Gallant, citing lack of trust. Right. Thank you. In May this year, Gallant voiced open frustration at the government failure to address the question of a post-war plan for Gaza. Gallant wanted Netanyahu to declare publicly that Israel has no plan to take over civilian and military rule in Gaza. It was a rare public show of division within Israel's war cabinet over the direction of the military campaign. Since October, I have been raising this issue consistently in the cabinet, Gallant said, and have received no response. Netanyahu responded by saying that he was not ready to exchange Hamas stand for Fatah stand, in reference to rival Palestine group Hamas and Fatah. Responding to Gallant's removal on Tuesday night, members of Israeli political opposition parties called for protests from the public. Gallant's dismissal also takes place on the day of the presidential election in the U.S. Israeli key backer in its war in Gaza, a timing noted by several Israeli media outlets. Gallant was viewed as having a much better relationship with the White House than Netanyahu. A representative of the White House National Security Council said on Tuesday, Minister Gallant has been an important partner on all matters related to the defense of Israel. As close partners, we will continue to work collaboratively with Israel's Minister of Defense. Observers note that Gallant's removal also comes at a time where Netanyahu is under pressure by far-right politicians to pass a bill which will have continued to allow Israel's ultra-Orthodox citizens to be exempted from serving in the military. Gallant has been a high-profile opponent of the bill. Now, the Middle East. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei speaks during a meeting with students in Tehran on 2nd November 2024. Iran's Supreme Leader says enemy will receive crushing response. The threat comes a week after Israel attacked Iran, raising fears that retaliation will escalate to war. Trump claims victory in the presidential elections. Kamala Harris falls short in historic presidential bid. Trump recaptures White House after divisive campaign. Trump vows to reshape executive branch, prioritize personal loyalty. Donald Trump was elected president, capping a remarkable comeback 4 years after he was voted out of the White House and ushering in a new American leadership, likely to test democratic institutions at home and relations abroad. Trump, 78, recaptured the White House on Wednesday by securing more than the 270 electoral college votes needed to win the presidency. Edison Research projected following a campaign of dark rhetoric that deepened the polarization in the country. The former president's victory in the swing state of Wisconsin pushed him over the threshold. America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate, Trump said early on Wednesday to a roaring crowd of supporters at the Palm Beach County Convention Center in Florida. Trump's political career has appeared to be over after his false claim of election fraud led a mob of supporters to storm the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021 in a failed bid to overturn his 2020 defeat. But he swept away challengers inside his Republican Party and then beat Democratic candidate Kamala Harris by capitalizing on voter concerns about high prices and what Trump claimed without evidence was a rising crime due to illegal immigration. Harris did not speak to supporters who was gathered at her alma mater, Howard University. A campaign co-chair, Cedric Richmond, briefly addressed the crowd after midnight, saying Harris will speak publicly later on Wednesday. "We still have to count the votes," he said. Republicans won the U.S. Senate majority, but neither party appeared to have an edge in the fight for control of the House of Representatives, where Republicans currently hold a narrow majority. The jobs and economy. Voters identified jobs and the economy as the country's most pressing problem. According to Reuters and IPSOS opinion polls, many Americans remain frustrated by higher prices, even amid record high stock markets, fast-growing wages, and low unemployment, with the administration of President Joe Biden taking much of the blame. A majority of voters said they trusted Trump more than Harris to address the issues. Hispanics, traditionally Democratic voters, and lower-income households hit hardest by inflation helped fuel Trump's election victory. His loyal base of rural, white, and non-college educated voters again showed up in force. Trump prevailed despite persistently low approval ratings. Impeached twice, he has been criminally indicted 4 times and 4 civilly liable for sexual abuse and defamation. In May, Trump was convicted by a New York grand jury of falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments to a porn star. In his victory, we have major implications for U.S. trade and climate change policies, the war in Ukraine, American taxes and immigration. His tariff proposal could spark a fiercer trade war with China and U.S. allies, while his pledges to reduce corporate taxes and implement a spate of new cuts could balloon U.S. debt, economists say. Trump has promised to launch a mass deportation campaign targeting immigrants in the country illegally. He said it was the authority to fire civil servants he views as disloyal. His opponent fear he will return the Justice Department and other federal law enforcement agencies into political weapons to investigate perceived enemies. A second Trump presidency could drive a bigger wedge between Democrats and Republicans on issues such as race, gender, what and how children are taught, and reproductive rights. Harris falls short. Vice President Harris fell short in her 15-week sprint as a candidate, failing to galvanize enough support to defeat Trump, who occupied the White House from 2017 to 2021, or to allay voters' concern about the economy and immigration. Harris has warned that Trump wanted unchecked presidential power and posed a danger to democracy. Nearly 3/4 of voters said American democracy is under threat, according to Edison Research exit poll, underscoring the polarization in a nation where divisions have only grown starker following a fiercely competitive race. Trump ran a campaign characterized by apocalyptic language. He called the United States a garbage can for immigrants, pledged to save the economy from obliteration, and cast some rival as the enemy within. His diatribes were often aimed at migrants, who he said were poisoning the blood of the country, or Harris, whom he frequently derided as unintelligent. Despite legal woes and controversies, Trump is the only second former president to win a second term after leaving the White House. The first was Grover Cleveland, who served 2 4-year terms starting in 1885 and 1893. Unprecedented campaign. In May, Trump was convicted by a New York jury of falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments to a porn star. 2 months later, a would-be assassin bullet grazed his right ear during a campaign rally, exacerbating fears about political violence. Another assassination attempt was thwarted in September at his Florida golf course. Trump blamed both attempts on what he claimed was the heated rhetoric of Democrats, including Harris. Barely 8 days after the July shooting, Biden, 81, dropped out of the race, finally bowing 2 weeks of pressure from his fellow Democrats after a poor performance during his debate with Trump called into question and his mental acuity and viability of his re-election bid. Biden's decision to step aside turned the contest into a sprint as Harris raced to mount her own campaign in a matter of weeks rather than the typical months. A rise to the top of the ticket re-energized the despondent Democrats, and she raised more than $1 billion in less than 3 months while erasing what has been a solid Trump lead in opinion polls. Harris' financial advantage was partly countered by the intervention of the world's richest man, Elon Musk, who poured more than $100 million into Super PAC, mobilizing Trump voters and using social media site X to amplify pro-Trump messaging. As the campaign drew to a close, Harris increasingly focused on warning Americans about the perils of re-electing Trump and offered a holy brand to disaffected Republicans. She highlighted remarks from several former Trump officials, including the former Chief of Staff and retired Marine Corps General John Kelly, who described Trump as a fascist. Trump's victory will broaden the fissures in American society, given his false claims of election fraud, anti-immigrant rhetoric, and demonization of his political opponents, said Alan Abramowitz, a political science professor at Emory University who studies voter behaviors and party politics. A Trump second term. Trump has vowed to reshape the executive branch, including firing civil servants if viewed as disloyal and using federal law enforcement agencies to investigate his political enemies, violating what has been a long-standing policy of keeping such agencies independent. During his first term, Trump's most extreme demands were sometimes timed by his own cabinet member, most notably when Vice President Mike Pence refused to block Congress from accepting the 2020 election results. Once the 2020 vote is certified by Congress on January 6, Trump and his Vice President, U.S. Senator J.D. Vance, are due to take office on Inauguration Day, January 20. Throughout his 2-year-long campaign, Trump has signaled he will prioritize personal fealty in staffing his administration. He promised roles in his administration to Musk and former presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., both avid supporters. Donald Trump has been elected president in a remarkable comeback, securing more than 270 electoral college votes, surpassing the threshold needed to win the presidency. His victory follows a divisive campaign and signals a shift in American leadership that is expected to challenge democratic norms both domestically and internationally. Trump's win, projected by this research, was clinched after the Trump in crucial state of Wisconsin at a jubilant rally in Palm Beach. Trump declared America has given us unprecedented and powerful mandates. The race against Vice President Kamala Harris came down to voter concern over the economy, with many expressing frustration over high prices. Harris, who has mounted a 15-week campaign, failed to generate enough support to secure a win. Trump's president is expected to push U.S. policy towards more hardline stances on immigration and trade, while also reshaping the federal government with a focus on loyalty. His rhetoric and campaign language were charged, calling the country's political landscape there, particularly around issues like immigration and crime. The election result is expected to deepen divisions in U.S. society, further fueling tensions on race, gender, and social issues. Trump's second term is set to begin with the inauguration on January 20, 2025. Yes. With a return to the White House on the horizon, analysts and world leaders are bracing for the impact of his foreign policy decisions, many of which remain undefined but expected to follow the America First framework that characterized his first term. His approach promises to reshape U.S. relationship with NATO allies, Israel, and China, leaving much of the international community on edge. Ukraine war, a defining challenge. Trump's handling of Russia's war in Ukraine is likely to set the tone for his second term. While he has claimed he could quickly end the conflict, critics argue that his past comments suggested Ukraine may have to cede territory, alienate key allies, and disrupt NATO's unified stance on the war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has cautiously welcomed Trump's re-election while reiterating his country's stand against territorial concessions. A free hand for Israel? In the Middle East, Trump's unwavering support for Israel is expected to continue, with many predicting he will arm Israel's military without attaching humanitarian conditions to the aid. This contrasts with the Biden administration's more cautious approach to the ongoing conflict in Gaza. However, Trump's close ties to Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu could result in an accelerated confrontation with Iran, a key regional adversary. China in the crosshair. Trump has also pledged to adopt an even other stance on China, with plans to escalate tariffs on Chinese goods, which could provoke economic repercussions globally. His admiration for Chinese President Xi Jinping's iron fist governance remained at odds with installed rhetorics on trade, adding to the uncertainty surrounding U.S.-China relationship in his second term. Loyalists expected in key roles. Another area of concern is how Trump will construct his national security team. During his period of term, seasoned Republicans often acted as a check on his more impulsive instinct. This time, however, Trump is expected to surround himself with loyalists who will implement his agenda without the internal pushback that characterized his first administration. With the world already grappling with multiple crises, Trump's foreign policy is set to face intense scrutiny as he prepares to step back into the Oval Office in January. Whether his bold promises translate into concrete actions remains to be seen, but one thing is certain, the global stage is watching. Trump's foreign policies face a world on fire as he prepares for second term. With Donald Trump poised to return to the White House, questions loom over how his foreign policy will shape a world in crisis. On the campaign trail, Trump made bold claims, including that he could end Russia's war in Ukraine within 24 hours and that Israel's very survival was at risk if he lost. He also pledged to impose sweeping new tariffs on Chinese goods. Now, having claimed victory, Trump is set to take office in January, and both allies and adversaries are anxious, waiting to see if he will follow through on his numerous foreign policy threats and promises. Though Trump has provided a few detailed foreign policy plans, his supporters point to his strong personality and peace through strength philosophy, claiming this will stabilize global conflict. Republicans argue that President Joe Biden's administration, marked by what they see as weakness, has allowed international crisis to escalate, a charge rejected by Democrats. A return to unpredictability. Trump's first term from 2017 to 2021 was characterized by a protectionist America First agenda, including threat to withdraw from NATO and a trade war with China. He also had high-profile, though ultimately unsuccessful, summits with North Korea and facilitated a peace agreement between Israel and several Arab states. However, Trump's erratic style left many U.S. allies, particularly in Europe, unsettled. The European Council of Foreign Relations recently allied the concern that his second term could revive tensions within the European Union and other traditional U.S. partners. Europeans are still licking their wounds from Trump's first term, the Council wrote, pointing to his antagonistic approach towards the EU and Germany. Stay tuned, we are taking a commercial break. Don't change the channel, we'll be right back with more exciting updates on Super Media Television.
The Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, Taraba State Chapter, under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Isaiah Jirape Magaji, cordially invites the general public to welcome the National CAN President for a visit to the state and a combined service scheduled to take place as follows. Date, 8 November 2024. Time, 3 p.m. prompt. Venue, CAN Secretariat along FGGC Road, Jalingo, Taraba State. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Dr. Agbike First, the Executive Governor of Taraba State. Come, let's welcome and fellowship together with this great man of God. Announcer, Planning Committee. The Provost, College of Education, Zinc, Taraba State, Professor Ejika Sambu, FIMC, CMC, on behalf of the management, staff and entire students of the college, cordially invites the general public to the combined convocation ceremony of her 1994 to 2023 set of graduates. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Dr. Agbike First, Executive Governor of Taraba State, which is scheduled to take place as follows. Date, 8 to 9 November 2024. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Venue, College of Education Football Ground, Zinc, Taraba State. Announcer, Committee. The Provost, College of Education, Zinc, Taraba State, Professor Ejika Sambu, FIMC, CMC, on behalf of the management, staff and entire students of the college, cordially invites the general public to the combined convocation ceremony of her 1994 to 2023 set of graduates. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Dr. Agbuke First, Executive Governor of Taraba State, which is scheduled to take place as follows. Date, 8th to 9th November 2024. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Venue, College of Education Football Ground, Zing, Taraba State. Announcer, Committee.
Welcome back. This is the broadcast of World News on Super Media Television. World News comes up every Monday to Friday at 3 p.m. You can also follow us on Facebook at SUMTV and on YouTube at Super Media TV. Coming up at next, Trump's policy on Ukraine and NATO. One of the most pressing issues Trump will face is the ongoing war in Ukraine. Instantly of the conflict could define his approach to foreign policy and signal how he plans to engage in NATO and key U.S. allies. Under Biden, the U.S. worked to rebuild ties that were strained during the Trump first term, but Trump's return could upend those efforts. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in a message on X, congratulated Trump and noted that his peace through strength philosophy might help bring an end to the war in Ukraine. Whether Trump can achieve that goal, however, remains to be seen. Israel fighter jets bomb Lebanon's Beirut, 95 killed across Gaza. Lebanon's capital, Beirut, was hit by at least 10 Israeli airstrikes overnight with reports of casualty. New UN reports says Israel has perpetrated a concerted policy to destroy Gaza's healthcare system that has included deliberate attacks on medical personnel and facilities, both of which are war crimes. Overnight, Israeli bombing of Beirut followed failed attempts at diplomacy. U.S. envoy Amos Hochstein and Brett McGurk were in Israel on Thursday while they held talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Usually, when they hold talks in Israel, they visit Beirut afterwards. This time, they did not, which is really a clear indication that there is no progress or breakthrough. And nobody was expecting a breakthrough because of Israel's demand. Netanyahu made it very, very clear yesterday that any deal needed to be enforced by Israel's security, that any deal needs to be enforced for Israel's security. What Israel wants is to be able to act freely even after a ceasefire, to target Hezbollah when it sees threats or violations. That is being interpreted here as a deal of surrender, and this is something that Hezbollah is not accepting, neither is the Lebanese state. So, a further attempt at diplomacy and strikes have resumed in Beirut's southern suburb. 124 killed as Sudanese paramilitary group attacks village, doctors and activists say. At least 124 people were killed in attacks by Sudanese paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces RSF, on the village south of Sudan's capital, Khartoum, on Friday. Activists and doctors say, which, if confirmed, marks one of the deadliest incident in civil war that showed no sign of abating. The RSF both forces have been accused of killing civilians. The incident followed the defection of the RSF commander in Al Jazeera, the region where the massacre allegedly took place. Since then, RSF attacks have escalated, reports say. A member of the resistance committees, a grassroots network formed by Sudanese residents, told CNN that over 200 other civilians were injured in the attack on Al Saria village, with an additional 150 detained by the RSF. The true number of victims may be significantly higher, the activists say, citing difficulties in documentations due to communication barriers. The activists requested anonymity on safety ground. The RSF militia has confiscated all Starlink devices, the only means of communication available to civilians, they said. The activists also noted that more than 30 villages in the eastern Al Jazeera region has been abandoned as residents flee retaliatory militia. The Sudan Doctors Network has also reported on mass killings in the same village, saying that RSF forces committed a massacre against civilians at Al Saria, resulting in 124 deaths, numerous injuries, and the replacement of hundreds in attacks on Friday. Russian strike on Ukrainian hospital used to treat soldiers kills at least 5. Russia struck a major Ukrainian hospital used to treat injured soldiers, killing at least 5 people, Ukrainian officials said. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called the Mechnikov Hospital in the southern central city of Dnipro one of the country's most important. Before the war, it treated up to 40,000 patients a year. 5 people, including a child, were killed in the strikes overnight, said Cyril Liasak, head of Dnipro Regional Military Administration, posting on his official Telegram. The strike comes just days after Russia's President Vladimir Putin faced calls from world leaders attending the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia, to end the war in Ukraine. Zelensky made a pointed reference to this week's summit in a statement posted on social media, saying that after everything said in Kazan, Russian murderers have resumed their usual business. This proves once again that aggression cannot be stopped by words alone, but only by decisive action in defense of the states and the people against whom this war is waged, the Ukrainian leader added. Angered over BRICS veto, Venezuela recalls ambassador to Brazil. Venezuela has pulled its ambassador from Brazil in a spat over Caracas failed at a recent bid to join the BRICS alliance of major developing nations. Venezuela Foreign Ministry announced a diplomatic punch on Wednesday, slamming Brazil's official for blocking its BRIC membership and making interventionist rude statement. The ministry also summoned Brazil's business envoy for talks, reported Reuters. The move heightens tensions between the neighboring South American states, which has sour since Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro declared himself re-elected in July, despite major irregularities in the tabulation of votes. Stay tuned, we are taking a brief commercial break.
Are you a businessman or woman? Do you need loan to grow your business? At Taraba Business Development Center, we offer both business and personal loan with flexible repayment plan. We are located in different parts of Taraba State. Jalingo branch, opposite Civil Service Commission, 183 Amarua Way, 090-3134-4333. Zing branch, Zenith Bank agent beside College of Education, Zing, 070-3125-2559. Yembu branch, Usi Plaza, Yembu Sardauna State, 080-8978-2725. ATC branch, Zenith Bank agents, Taraba State University shops, ATC Audokola Local Government, 090-7850-2712. Other centers to take up soon. This initiative is supported by Zenith Bank, Globus Bank, Wema Bank, and Guarantee Trust Bank. Super Cash.
The families of late Yakubu Finde Jafu and Mr. Hosea Dauda Jatau cordially invite the public to the wedding solemnization of their beloved children, Comrade David Yakubu, popularly known as David Yaks, Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the Honorable Member representing Kurmi Constituency, Taraba State House of Assembly, and Miss Marta Dauda Jatau, scheduled to take place as follows. Date 9th November 2024. Venue Dunamis Church, Mayadasa, Jalingo, Taraba State. Reception follows immediately at Jolinyame Stadium Open Field. Announcer Grum's family.
He has done it for you, and you will come back. To Music Studio. To Music Studio. To Music Studio. To Music Studio. To Music Studio.
Welcome back. You can also follow us on Facebook at SUMTV and on YouTube at Super Media TV. Coming up next, North Korea vows to back Russia until victory over Ukraine as thousands of its troops set to enter combat. The US say 10,000 North Korean soldiers have been deployed to Russia and are set to enter the battle with Ukraine in the coming days. North Korea says it will support Russia in its war with Ukraine until the day of victory. After the US warned thousands of Pyongyang's troops are set to enter combat in the coming days. North Korea Foreign Minister Cho Oh-swin hailed Vladimir Putin's wise leadership ahead of talk in Moscow on Friday and insisted that Russia will achieve a great victory. We also assured that until the day of victory, we will firmly stand alongside our Russian comrades, she added. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said thousands of North Korean troops are stationed near Ukraine's border and are set to enter combat in the coming days. Mr. Blinken said 10,000 soldiers have been deployed to Russia, with up to 8,000 in the Kursk border region, and indicated they could be used on the front line. He added that the troops have been trained by Russian forces in artillery, drones, and basic infantry operations, including trench clearing. In an interview with South Korean TV channel KBS, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the West's response to the deployment as nothing, it's zero. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told reporters on Friday that he has nothing to add to what has already been said on the U.S. claims and thanked Ms. Show for North Korea's support. The deployment of troops to Russia comes after Mr. Putin met Kim Jong-un in June, when the Russian president traveled to North Korea for the first time in 24 years. Financial audit forces Senegal to reassess IMF program strategy. The $1.8 billion IMF aid program secured in 2023 is currently frozen. A restructuring of the agreement is now required. According to France Minister Cheikh Diba, the government is aiming for a new agreement by the first quarter of 2025 at the latest. The Minister of Finance, Cheikh Diba, announced during the annual IMF meeting in Washington that Senegal's program with international institutions need to be revised following an audit that revealed a higher debt and budget deficit than previously reported. Mr. Diba, quoted by Bloomberg, stated that the current program needs to be updated. We are in a serious discussions with the fund. The government is now aiming for a new agreement with the IMF by the first quarter of 2025 at the latest. The government is now aiming for a new agreement with the IMF by the first quarter of 2025. The $1.8 billion program secured from the IMF in 2023 is now owed, and scheduled payment of 338 billion CFA francs this year have been postponed to 2025. Minister Diba acknowledged, "We are aware of the consequences, but when we realized there were fundamental discrepancies between the figures reported to the fund, which formed the basis of our relationship, we understood we had to report them. The budget deficit is actually over 10% of GDP, almost double the initial reported 5.5%. These revelations have immediate repercussions. Moody's downgraded the country's credit rating further into the speculative category, with a potential additional downgrade on the horizon. Senegalese Eurobond experienced a brief period of massive selling. The audit commissioned by the new President Bassirou Diomaye Faye revealed alarming figures regarding the last 5 years of Macky Sall's presidency. The debt-to-GDP ratio at the end of 2023 exceeded 80% compared to the previously announced 73%, according to the audit finding confirmed by an independent IMF review. According to the ministers, funds already disbursed will not need to be repaid. This will have been the case if we had tried to conceal the fact and were caught. In this instance, Senegal conducted an audit and returned to the IMF with the current figures. Additionally, the government has initiated a review of contracts in the natural resources sector, Mr. Adiba stated. We cannot change the rules of the game mid-play, but the state has right to verify if the contract complied with the mining and oil codes in effect at the time. The review comes as Senegal is set to become a significant producer of oil and gas. The 4.8 billion JTA liquefied natural gas project led by BP and Cosmos Energy is expected to commence this year, while the Sagoma oil development operated by Woodside Energy has been in production since June. These projects are anticipated to boost the country's economic growth, projected at 6% this year and over 10% in 2025. Britain's opposition Conservative Party elects new leader. Britain's Conservative Party on Saturday elected Kenny Badenoch as its new leader as it tries to rebound from a crushing election defeat in July that ended his 14 years in power. She defeated fellow right-winger Robert Jenrick in a vote of the almost 100,000 members of the Right of the Centre Party, becoming the first black woman to head a major British political party. Badenoch was born in London of Nigerian parents and spent most of her childhood in Africa, replaces former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. To tell the truth, she said. To tell the truth, she said. All eyes will now be on Badenoch as he appoints a top team in the coming days. World Health Organization says of law. Kindiki, the former interior minister, takes the deputy president's office at a time when arbitrary arrest and enforced disappearance in Kenya have raised concerns over Western envoys and human rights law. The country is also going through economic hardship with the rising cost of living and newly increased taxes. In June, the country witnessed a series of nationwide anti-government protests over a finance bill that proposed to increase taxes, culminating in the storming and burning of Parliament on June 25, when several protesters were shot dead outside the Parliament gates. Ruto came to office claiming to represent Kenya's poorest citizens, has faced widespread criticism over his efforts to raise taxes to pay off foreign creditors. The public opposition led him to shake up his cabinet and back off from certain proposals. Guinea junta dissolved dozens of political parties, silent on elections. Guinea authorities dissolved dozens of political parties and placed two major opposition ones under observation late Monday, while the transitional government has yet to announce a date for election. Orders for 3 months is unprecedented in Guinea, which held its first democratic election in 2010 after decades of authoritarian rule. The Ministry of Territorial Administration and Decentralization announced the moves based on an evaluation of all political parties began in June. The evaluation was meant to clean up the political chessboard, according to the ministry. The 67 parties that will be under observation for 3 months can operate normally but must resolve irregularities noted in the report. Those parties include the Rally of the Guinea People, which is the party of former President Alpha Conde, and another major opposition party, the Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea. The authorities said the parties placed under observation failed to hold their party congress within the time limit and to provide bank statements, among other issues. Guinea is one of the growing number of West African countries, including Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, where military has taken power and delayed a return to civilian rule. Earlier this year, the military junta in Burkina Faso extended its transition term by 5 years. Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, who leads Guinea, overran the president 3 years ago, saying he was preventing the country from slipping into chaos and chastised the previous government for broken promises. However, since coming to power, he has been criticized by some for being no better than his predecessor. In February, the military leader dissolved the government without explanation, saying a new one will be appointed. Angry crowd booed and threw eggs at Spanish king as he visited flood-hit Valencia. Angry residents booed and threw eggs at Spain's king Felipe and Queen Letizia as they visited the Valencia region, where more than 200 people have died in devastating floods. The king faced chants of murderer as he visited hard-hit Paipota just outside the Valencia city, along with Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and Regional Governor Carlos Mazon, where local accused authorities of a lax response to the disaster. After they posed for a photo, the crowd began hurling insults at the king, Mazon, and Sanchez. The crowd surged forward as security opened umbrellas to try and protect them from projectiles. Comforted by one resident, Felipe remained calm and lowered his umbrella to listen to him as police struggled to control those gathered. Queen Letizia also spoke with furious residents and seemed visibly shaking, holding her head in her hands. The royal family's social media channel released video in the aftermath of the protest, showing the king and the queen embracing distraught residents. One man fell weeping into the king's arms, and in another shot, the king is seen hugging two crying women. It is unusual for a Spanish king to face such fierce anger up close. Felipe is a relatively popular figure who ascended the throne after the abdication of his father. The anger appeared largely directed at Mazon and Sanchez, who left early even as the king insisted on staying on despite the chaos. Sanchez's office in a statement said that the prime minister has been taken away following security protocol. In a statement on X, Mazon said he understood the anger and praised the exemplary conduct of the king. At least 214 people are now confirmed dead from the flood, and the toll may climb higher. Among the latest victims where a 70-year-old woman whose body was found more than 12 kilometers from her house. That's all for this edition of World News. World News comes up every Monday to Friday at 3 p.m. from Super Media Television. You can follow us on Facebook at SUMTV and on YouTube at Super Media TV. I am Abraham Manajoda. Thank you for joining us.